Okay, let me share my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, good evening everyone. Um I can perceive that most of us in the house are not absolute beginners. The presentation is actually prepared for it's supposed to be an introduction to Git and GitHub for um absolute beginners. So I don't know. Engineer Dave, should I still go ahead since the expected targets are not here?
Yeah, just proceed. Just proceed. Most of them will join in. Just proceed.
All right, that is fine. Okay, so if you can see my slide, I want to welcome us again to this segment, to this presentation, right? So we'll be talking about Git and GitHub, and then our major focus will be on this outline. So first of all, we'll talk about we'll have a brief introduction of what Git and GitHub is and why we needed it as developers. And as well, we'll look at Git and GitHub separately, what it is and why we should learn it. We look at the difference between the both. So sometimes developers tends to conflict, especially beginners tends to conflict between the two. So, but then we'll try to differentiate the difference. We'll try to differentiate the two, right? So we'll also look at how we can get started. So someone is just hearing about GitHub and then Git for the first time. How do the person maximize that knowledge? So how do you get started? How does it become useful to you? And then I'll also be sharing a slide that's contains some resources to learn further on the topic. So and then we'll also talk about some of the unavoidable commands that we use on daily basis. So command that you encounter on daily basis while you on your development journey. So and that will be it for today. So just more like an introduction to GitHub. So mastering Git and GitHub and sometimes terminal command helps our productivity as developers and collaboration as well, right? So if you are very conversant with terminal command, I believe you will spend a whole lot of time, a whole lot of development time, right? And then for GitHub, I think the idea of Git and GitHub is first to effectively manage your code base, to version your code, right? And the idea of that is for Git. The main idea of GitHub is to be able to house your code and for collaboration, right? So you can bring in other team members to your work and be able to collaborate effectively on GitHub. So these are some of the things we'll be looking at in this presentation, right? And how best we can maximize these two, right? So I told Engineer Dave in the when he related to me about the need for this presentation, I told him that it is very important that he is bringing it up at the very beginning. Like I came to know about GitHub after like some months of practicing how to code. So and somehow I wasn't so happy about. I felt like okay, so I would have started first with GitHub, just to give me that sense of that I need to document my learning process, right? So when he mentioned it, I said, okay, fine. The earlier, the better, right? So if you are a total beginner in the take and you've not started using GitHub, then I think the right time to start is now, right? Because it gives you the privilege of documenting every of your process, every of your progress, right? And sometimes when we submit our CVs for job application, right, and then your recruiters want to really check if you have this amount of experience you claim. Sometimes the recruiters come to your GitHub to see your commit history, like when did you start using GitHub. And that is to say that if you start early, it will be easier for you to claim a longer period of experience with Git, right? So that being said, we will also entertain questions. So if at any point you have questions, I think maybe at the end of the presentation you can um at the end of the presentation, I believe Engineer Dave, I believe that will be time for a question at the end of the presentation, or should it come in between?
After the presentation, you know, it's 1 hour. It was just 1 hour. So, um, after the presentation, we should be able to attend to question. However, I will be able to. I will also send this file into the group, so at least most of them can peruse and then go through it as well. And why the resource link will be attached, you know, to this presentation. All right. So that's just it. So just try and wind down. All right.
Okay, so the I will be sending you this version I'm using now. The one I sent to you earlier on, I did a little changes to it, so it's quite different from what I have now.
Okay.
So I'll be
Very
sending
good.
you, this
Very
is the
good.
most current version. Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Okay,
All
so
right.
having said that, so let's look at what Git is actually is, right? So Git is a widely used version control system. So version control system is like a system that allows us to version our code. So let's say for instance, you are working on a project, and you've um you've made changes to your code. So the version you had yesterday and the one you have today, because of the new changes we made, are no longer the same. So Git provides us a control to be able to version our code, our project, right? So that allows developers to track their changes, which I've already explained, and then collaborate effectively. So the collaboration of Git is not really on Git, rather is on GitHub, right? So it also helps us to manage different versions of our code base. By understanding it, you can easily track changes. You can revert to any previous version you wish to, right? There are commands for that. And then you can collaborate seamlessly with other team members, which enhances code quality and then productivity as well. So that is, I think this should be more like a more technical definition of Git. So a more like a layman's definition. I don't know what instance I will use now. Um, just see it like um, a tool that allows you to manage your process, right? To manage your progress in your development process, right? I hope that makes sense. So then talking about GitHub. So um GitHub is actually a web-based hosting platform that utilize Git for version control, right? So uh, GitHub is like a housing for Git commands, right? It's just like a housing for a hosting platform to accommodate whatever you do with your Git, or whatever you do with your GitHub. with your git command, right? So in GitHub, you'll be able to create repositories. So repositories are projects are organized in repositories. Like each repository represents a particular project, or it could be more than one, but then it's organized in repositories, right? So with that, you'll be able to invite other team members to a particular repository so that they can also contribute to it, make changes, review code, and all of that, right? So proficiency, having on understanding of GitHub very well will allow you collaborate effectively, review code, and um, track issues. Most of the times, people develop issues on in your repository. So some of those issues are being tracked, and when they are resolved, um, you also have to effectively report that in your repository, right? So the next thing we'll talk about is why we should learn GitHub, or why is GitHub relevant? Why is it necessary in the development process? As a tech guy, um, even sometimes people who don't code also use GitHub, right? So sometimes people who don't write code, um, as per se, like designers. I know I had a guy sometimes ago that he's a was a UI UX designer, but then he has a folder for all his Figma design that he sends on GitHub. Probably he might want to um, showcase it sometimes in the future. So why we need to use GitHub and Git is because one is version control. Like I mentioned earlier, um, every technical product, every software comes out in versions, right? So that's why you have Windows 10 from starting from Windows 7, Windows 8 till we get to Windows 11. So these things are versions of a particular software, right? So if you are building your project, your can you guys still hear me?
Very well. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so sorry, I'm having
Yeah, very
network.
well.
I need to confirm that. So managing your version is very important, right? So when you have written your code and you make changes to it, so each of those processes, if you have completed a particular fixture, maybe you are trying to put up a pop-up in your project. Once you completed that fixture, it's important you document it. Because tomorrow you might, as you proceed in the project, you might run into problems that you don't know where they are coming from, into bugs. So you might need to revert to a version that you are sure were working before, and GitHub helps you achieve that. So the next thing is collaboration and remote work. Yes, a lot of us have worked remotely in the past and probably currently, right? So one tool that has helped us achieve remote work as a developer is Git and GitHub. Yes, I was pursuing to learn how to code with a boot camp, a US based boot camp. So during my learning of coding, I collaborated with uh, over 200 learners from all over the world, and we are using Git and GitHub, right? So we come on board and then we share our tasks, and everybody create his own branch, work on your project, and then when it is reviewed, you merge, right? So without Git or GitHub, we won't be able to achieve some of those things, right? So again, it's code backup and recovery, right? You don't want to imagine the situation that okay, you finished working on a particular project and all of a sudden your system crashed. You spend hours, like spend days working on this project. I don't know what, especially if you are using Windows like myself. Sometimes Windows will be doing emergency updates, and you can quickly use another person's system. But then once you log into your GitHub, you'll be able to recover all your code because you have them saved already, right? Just clone and start from where you stopped before. So then we'll talk about branching and collaboration workflow, right? So branching is more like you create a branch. GitHub operates with a pattern of having a branch, right? So you create a branch, and probably whoever is working on the same project will create their own branch, and you commit, right? So the next we'll talk about is an industry standard. I don't think there is any serious company that doesn't use Git. Although there are other version control systems you can use as well, but GitHub is more like the orga in their midst. It's more like the big head in their midst, right? So there are other version control you could also use, but then GitHub is more like the big fish among them. So it also provides us with a command line efficiency. So most of the time, what you'll be doing it with the Git terminal, maybe Git bash, or even your system terminal, your pre-installed system terminal. So it provides you with a command line, right? So it also helps you to automate some processes like testing. You run your tests, and then your linters. You do automation and scripting on GitHub. And then the final thing I will talk about, there are other reasons that there are other reasons you want to adventure into using Git and GitHub for beginners, for those who are not using it yet, right? So, but then I will just stop at this. The portfolio development. Today, most of the times when you submit job application or you are trying to bargain for a freelance project, most recruiters will request for your portfolio, and then they will request for your GitHub. So most of the times when people want to see what the progress you've made so far or how passionate you are about writing code, they want to see your commit history. So you send them your GitHub profile, and then they get there and they say, okay, we've seen some of your project and all of that. You get. So the next thing we'll talk about is the difference between Git and GitHub. So like we said earlier on, GitHub is a version control. Git is a version control system, while GitHub is a web-based application. Um, I'm trying to relate it to something more physical, something you can easily relate to it now. Maybe I could use a car. I'm not sure about that, but then what I'm trying to say that Git is like a means we achieve GitHub, right? GitHub is the house. Then just how do I put this now? Um, okay, so you want to transport a particular product to a warehouse, right? You want to transfer a particular product to a warehouse. You need a car or maybe something mobile to carry your product to the warehouse, right? The warehouse itself is more like a GitHub. But then the car or whatever means you want to take it to the warehouse is the Git. So I don't know if that really makes sense, but I think that is the whole idea, right? So then we can also differentiate it using the user interface. So primarily Git is command line based, right? You run Git on your terminal, right? But Git is a web based. It has a full fledged user interface, right? It has your profile section, it has your repository section, and it supports other features as well. And Git is an open source project, and it doesn't really have a particular owner. So it's maintained by a community of developers. Why GitHub is a legal property of Microsoft, right? So the next thing we differentiate it with is, like I said earlier, is a version control system. That is the Git. And then GitHub is a web-based hosting platform, right? Um, Git runs offline, whether you have internet connection or not. You can do your development on your VS Code or whatever editor you are using, and still do your Git add, Git commit, and send. It will still be on the cloud until you have internet. You get, but you cannot use GitHub without internet. You cannot use GitHub without internet. But Git, you can still run your Git commands, and then it will still work, right? So another thing is social networking. Git does not provide social networking features or a platform for discovering other developers' projects. But with GitHub, you can follow other developers, view their profile, start their projects, contribute to their work, and some other activities as well, right? So the next thing we would like to talk about is how to start using Git and GitHub, right? So you've already have an understanding of, okay, what Git is and what GitHub is, and what Git is not and what GitHub is not, right? Like the difference, right? So the big question now is, how do I use it? How do I benefit from it? So the first thing is to download and install Git. And the place to download and install Git is Git official. I think is I included the URL on the resources, but then there is a Git official website for that. So maybe I will share it when we get to that place. Right. So you download and you store it. Download for the one that is compatible with your operating system. Right. If you are using Windows, you download for Windows. If you are using iOS, if you are using Mac, you download the one for Mac, right? So that is for you to have Git. And then Git, once you download Git, it comes with a pre-installed Git bash, which is more like a Git terminal. So you can run it on Git bash, or you can also run it on your pre-installed system terminal, right? So then to use GitHub, you have to create an account. So you go to github.com to create your personalized account and then set off your profile. So once that is done, you have to run some command, which I've also included in the daily command um, slide, right? So you run the command to connect your GitHub account to your to Git account. So once that is successful, you can start creating and editing your project locally. So I don't know if we have some time we could do some um have some time we could do some um practicals on that. So then you create your repository on GitHub. So if you like, you can create your project locally and then commit to GitHub. If you also like, you can start by creating a repository and clone the repository down. So if you create a repository first on GitHub and then you clone it and then open it in your VS Code or whatever editor you are using. So what that does for you is that once you clone the project, it initializes Git. It initializes Git or automatically for you. But if you are creating locally from your device and then you are committing to GitHub, you have to initialize it first before you commit. I don't know if that is quite clear. So if you are creating, if you are doing number five first, it's automatically creates it initializes Git for you. But if you are doing number four first, you are creating locally, you are creating a project local, you're creating a profile, a folder on your local device, and you want to commit to, you want to push it to GitHub, then you need to initialize it first. Then the last thing you do is after you have made changes to your project, you can commit and then push um, to GitHub. So that is to the GitHub server. So the next thing we'll talk about is so these are the resources. So this is the URL to download your Git. So this slide will be made available after the presentation. You can go through them. So they are clickable. You can click from here and it take you to the website or the URL, right? So these are some of the where you can learn more about GitHub and then practice what you've learned as well. So I've been talking about Git as a command line tool, right? So Git also provides us what we call Git desktop. So more like an application that runs on the desktop that also helps you instead of running those command line, you can push your work, push your project directly to GitHub without running those commands. So personally, I don't use Git desktop, so I didn't mention so much about it here. But then I know it has a lot of features you might want to try out and explore, right? So personally, I use Git command, so I don't use Git desktop. But you might want to check it out and then explore it. If it's something you like, you may continue with it. I know of a lot of developers that use Git desktop instead of the command line. So I'm trying to rush up. Um, so these are some of the um, Git terminal command you have to interface with on daily basis as a developer. So Git init helps us to initialize Git. So initialize Git is like telling your system that okay, you want to you want to run a Git command. You want to register this project on GitHub. So without initializing your Git, you won't be able to commit to GitHub. So you first of all run Git command Git init. So once you run Git init, on the background, the GitHub will create a folder for you that allows you to send your project to GitHub, right? So you can then run git add with the file name. This readme is an example of a file name to add the particular file you want to send to GitHub, right? But if you want to send the whole project, like you want to send the whole file, you can then run git add dot. That will send the whole file to the GitHub. Then to commit your work. Commit is more like you want to state the particular changes you made. So what changes do you make? Because for you to send your your project to GitHub, it means there must be some changes you've already made, different from the previous one. So you need to tell GitHub what changes you have made. So to run that command, you run git commit minus m, and then you put the message in quotes. So probably you can say add header or maybe add logo to the website or whatever changes you have made. You more like a descriptive message. So it shouldn't be a generic message. Rather, it should be very. Then Git branch creates a branch for you. So when you run Git branch, you include the branch name, Git branch, and then the branch name. So that will create a branch, a new branch for you. So I may not go into how Git branch works, but it's something you can read up. Or maybe if we have a second session, we can talk about it. Then when you are done, when you are ready to push your code to GitHub, the command to run is git push. So git push will push the current branch you have, whatever changes you have made on that current branch, it will send it to GitHub, right? So and this particular command requires net internet. So maybe if you try to run it and it's not going through, you need to check your internet connection, right? So because at this point you are sending something to the server. So then git remote add origin. So um when you want to add an origin, it's more like when you must have run your git in it.
Hello, Enya Kingsley. Hello.
To git. Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yeah, proceed. We can hear you.
Okay,
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
we
you can
can.
proceed.
okay. So git push minus u origin main is a similar command to git push. Um, I'm not sure the exact difference this does, but then if you have a new branch created that you've not committed for the first time to GitHub, when you try running git push, it will direct you to run this command. So this, sorry, to direct you to run this particular git push um, minus u origin. The main there is the branch name. So main could be whatever branch name you have, the correct branch you are working, the correct branch you are working on. So which that is the meaning of the main, right? So I am not sure the exact difference between this command and the initial command, but I think it's something you can also try to find out on your own. Then I will know the other time we talk about adding a GitHub um, project, like connecting your project to GitHub. So the same way you connect your project, you can also remove the project. So if you can also disconnect the project. So to do that, you run git remove remote remove origin. So this to remove, you don't need to add the URL again. So because the URL is already there, once you initialize and connect, it recognizes the URL you are pushing your code to. So but you want to remove it, you just run git remove origin, and then that will remove it. So if you want to commit it to another folder or another GitHub project, you can then rerun and then add the URL with git remove add origin. So then when I was talking about getting started with GitHub, so once you have installed your Git, you need to configure your Git with your username and your email. So the command to configure your Git to GitHub, so that your Git that you are running this command to be stored on a particular username on the server. So you run git config globally, that's dash dash globally. You include your username, username.name, and then you include your name, that's your username, which you will copy from your GitHub profile, right? So in the same manner, you also have to configure with your email. So you have to run git configure global user.email, and then you include your email address. So that will configure your git to your GitHub, right? So so for colorization, you can run git configure global color.py, then auto, right? Then, but if you want to clone a Git project, probably you are working with a team and a Git project has been provided, and they said everyone should go and clone it and start work. So to do that, you have to run git clone and then your URL. So maybe if we have time, I could show you how to copy a repository repository URL to clone. And then git merge. So merging is more like when your code has been reviewed, probably by a senior colleague or by your colleague, so and feedback has been given and changes have been made, like everything is okay to merge. So you run git merge and then the branch. So once you run git merge and the branch name you want to merge to, the it will merge your current branch, the branch you are currently on, and the branch name is provided. It will merge the both, right? So there are other commands. There are numerous commands, but these are just the basics that you need to interface with that will get you started, right? Or there are other ones that you need to run probably when you run into git conflicts or any for other purposes, right? So they are very numerous. So you can go through the resources I've provided that will help you learn more about Git and GitHub. At this point, I think if we have any questions, we can take them. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Engineer Kingsley. I appreciate your time and effort for this as regards to this presentation. So, guys, if you have any question, just quickly unmute your mic and ask your question. Thank you. Engineer Kenna, go ahead. Engineer Kenna, go ahead, proceed. You are raising up your hand.
Yes, yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Very well. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Thank you very much. I think this is it's a new one for me. I think I'm trying to grab something. So my question is, I was trying to pick out something because from the definition and what the slide I saw that the Git and the GitHub, you were basically talking about when you have a code and trying to maybe track and change the code. So my question is, must one have a code or maybe be a developer before he or she can make use of the GitHub? Must you have a code? Must you be into coding, or you can just okay, fine, you can just work on GitHub on its own separately before you can now start maybe talking about coding and stuff like that? Because from the definition, I think I saw more of coding before you now move your code. Maybe if you want to change your code, you now move to GitHub and Git thereabout. So I wanted to clarify and then maybe put me through. Is it that I must learn coding first before I can now divert into Git and GitHub? Thank you.
Engineer Kingsley, over to you, please. Engineer Kingsley. Engineer Kingsley. Engineer Kingsley.
Hello.
Yeah, proceed, proceed.
Yeah, I lost Ikena's voice. I didn't know. I think my network was very poor, so I didn't hear his question.
Okay, what he said. Okay, okay. Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, let me just recap. I was asking, must I learn code before I can start making use of Git and GitHub?
Okay. No, like I said before during the presentation, some people use Git and GitHub for different purposes. It mustn't be for code purposes, right? But then it's majorly used by developers who write code to version their code, right? But it's not a requirement for you to use Git or GitHub. So at any point in time you have need for it, you can use it.
Okay, that's noted. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions, please? We have about 15 minutes. They will log us out. Any more questions, please?
Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I joined the meeting late, and I would like to know this deep stuff you talked about. What is the output of it? What is the end of it? Hello?
Yeah, I don't know. The output of Git is that you have your code housed in a particular place where if you have need for other people to collaborate together with you, you will be able to invite them, right?
Okay.
So yeah, that is what Git helps you to do. I don't know. I think we have very limited time. I would have loved to share my GitHub profile. Probably show you
Okay.
some.
Some
Uh,
samples on.
yes, Engineer David, can I do that?
Okay, you can proceed, but we'll just have about 15 minutes. They might log us. I was just thinking that probably by next week we'll just have to you have to come up again on a practical
Okay.
basis. So you
Yes.
just
Yes.
practicalize it instead of
Yes.
this is just a theory and just to give us a clear understanding of what Git and Git is and how to operate with it. However, I suggest by next week, so we just come practically. You just teach us GitHub, uh, how to use these things to achieve our goal as a developer. I'm not a developer. I'm a project personnel. However, I still use Git because I don't like, just like you said, I don't trust Windows. Sometimes it can crash. So I put most of my jobs, most of my schedule, most of my projects, in that remote server, in that version control system. I mean, that's GitHub. So I use Git to push them and store it in GitHub. That's what I'm saying. Probably by next week on Saturday we'll just take on some practical purely. So I just believe that this class is more of theoretical approach. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you. And please don't forget to just drop the material on our group chat so we can go back to it again and read up.
no problem.
Thank you very much.
Engineer Kenna, go ahead. You want to ask? You have questions to ask?
Yes, I want to say something. Since we are canvassing for next week for the practical, uh, any means to download? Is there any something we can download? Maybe the software or something like that. Since it's practical for next week.
Yes, if you look in the group chat, I sent something as regards to GitHub. You can download GitHub. I sent it. If you just look through the group chat, then I also sent Git. You can download Git, and I also send how to download it. Video the videos that give you the instruction on how to go about downloading. I mean installing it. So to say, just like Git and also GitHub. I send this thing the software. You can download the software. It's not heavy. Also GitHub, then the videos on how to install it, is also there. You just check through the group chat, you see everything inside the chats. Thank you. Any other question, please?
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, please, I want to ask. I noticed. I mean, we're directed. Okay, I was listening to him, and he said places you go to for you to get the what's it called? I wrote it down somewhere. Let me just quickly check. Just give me a minute. Okay, resources to learn Git and GitHub from. So I noticed that I was trying to check this thing the capture he had the descriptions and your RL. So that one is written in blues. So I couldn't see how to what that one was saying. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say.
Okay, what you do just to copy it and paste it in your browser. Copy that. When this material is finally sent in the group chat, you have I mean, you just have to just copy the link and paste it in your browser. Once you copy the link, paste it in your browser, then you proceed from there. That's just most of the resource materials which you can peruse on your own free time to study about this Git and GitHub, right? You can, however, I'll still drop some videos, but I'll still drop some videos as regards to Git, but in particular because because it's all about terminal. Every system have terminal, so it's about terminal command. You need to learn terminal command, and now how to now approach Git. So those command Git is different from terminal, but you use your terminal just like the Git bash, right? So I will still post videos as regards to that. Uh just bear with us. By next week, God willing, He will take us on the practical aspect. But however, I will still post some videos to help us as we proceed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any other question, please? They will log us out in the next 9 minutes from now because it's just 1 hour. Teams can log us out any moment from any time now, please. So if you have any questions, just quickly kindly just proceed.
So are we downloading both the Git and the GitHub?
Definitely Git and GitHub. Just look through the group chat. You see Git and GitHub. Download those. Those are software you need to download. So
So,
the Git when you download the
Engineer
Git,
Dave,
yeah.
yeah, can I say something, please? I think what we need to download is just the Git. The GitHub is
Okay, yeah, that's true.
you just
That's
have to create
yeah,
accounts
that's
on
true. That's
GitHub.
true. That's true.
Okay.
That's true. That's true. If
Okay.
you want, but me, I
I
also have
think
the GitHub
GitHub,
in my desktop. But however, you can
Git,
still leave it. You
GitHub,
can yeah proceed.
I think GitHub is a website now, so you
Yes,
can't be
it's a website, but you can you
publishing,
Yes,
can you can
yes.
still have it in your system if you chose to.
but you just need the
Uh-huh.
Git to download to
Mm.
access it.
Yeah. That's
Yes,
it. That's it.
exactly.
That's it.
And also for you to be able to, from what I've studied, for you to be able to store your projects inside GitHub, there's a way you have to link it, because without linking it, you'll be able to use your terminal.
That's initialized.
Yes.
Those are the things. Yeah,
Yeah,
yes. He talked about
yes.
that. He talked about that. Those are the command. Those initialize. You need to
Okay.
initialize and everything. So he talked about that. Everything is covered, and we're going to see it in the
Okay.
material. Yeah.
What maybe when we start the practical, because what I would like to also know is about those how to create branches in GitHub.
Okay.
So that's noted. So noted. And Kingsley, so next Saturday, we just walk us through practical aspect of it. Maybe you can use your own GitHub and also Git to just push particular. You just create some certain things, then push it in your GitHub. Then you can also pull it down. You can also as well invite 1 or 2 persons to come. It's just like that. So for them to just see how it is practically. I don't know if that will be fine. I think that shouldn't take us more than 1 hour.
Sure.
Okay. So
That will work.
we'll schedule a class for that. That's on Saturday. So it's going to be practical, extremely practical, to teach us how to use those Git command, which I know is in your Git bash. So use those Git command and then work with it. So that's just on that note. So any other question, please, before we call it a day for today? Any other question, please?
If there's no other question, I want to say something now.
Okay,
But if
please.
there's no other question, okay, Mr. Day, I really appreciate what you're doing in this place. At least for us that are still learners, we are trying to grow up in this programming of a thing. Also, I don't know, maybe there's a way you can also bring in software engineer that can teach us Java, because
No problem.
so
I will sort out with that. I'll sort out with that. No problem. I'll sort out with that.
okay.
For right now, let's just learn this Git and GitHub. Then, as of course, I've already sent HTML, CSS. Then when we keep proceeding, this Git and GitHub will help us to store our progress. Should in case a recruiter comes and okay, show me your GitHub. You can just send your GitHub. That will tell okay, this is when you started actually, because most of your progress are going to be stored in your GitHub. So your Git is what you use to push those projects. Your Git is what you use to push them from your desktop or your laptop. You push it to that server into GitHub. So it will be stored there. So whenever any recruiter comes, they will go and check your repository. Your repository simply means a folder, right? Simply means folder. Repository simply means folder, right? You created the folder and you put a file. Those file can be those projects. Those file can, like your HTML file is a project. Then you open a folder, a repository, you put it inside. So that's how GitHub is. So your GitHub is just like a folder. Let me just use that word. Then your Git is just like that file. So you can push that file to that folder. Do you understand? So you need internet to work with, just like he said, you need internet to work with your GitHub. But unlike Git, you don't need internet. Whatever you push online, if you push it online, it will just be there. Whenever your internet comes on, it will, it will reflect. That's how it is. You can push, you can pull. Push simply means to push up, to take something up, to store, then to pull down, to withdraw that thing from wherever it is. That's just what that terminology. That's what it means, right? So God willing, I will still get other professionals that are good in other aspects. For now, let's just take this so serious and grow with it. This is the first stage. You need Git and GitHub to store your progress over time. Over time. Remember, 5 years of experience. It will. If you must prove it, it will be. I mean, you just want to tell, right? It will tell if yes, if you've been practicing this or not. So they'll try to check, to peruse your GitHub account to see when you actually started using GitHub, which is very, very important. That's why when he brought it to my knowledge, as like, we need to put. I say yes, I think that's good, because I also have a GitHub account, right? So that's just that for that. So I'll try as much as possible to get some other professionals to come on board, you know, in different fields. The goal is just we must be impacted with this knowledge, and we must run with it. That's just it. It will be a good thing for me, a thing of joy to see everyone, excel. That's fulfillment for me. I don't know what else to call it. That's fulfillment. Once my friends can prosper, man, I'm okay. That's the truth. And it's a must that we must prosper. And God will help us. So I thank everyone for your time, and appreciate you, Engineer Kisley, for coming thus far to, give us an highlight of Git and GitHub. We believe by next week we'll venture into the practical aspect, and get to do what we need to do as regards to Git and GitHub practically. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Engineer Kisley. So goodbye from me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining. Good night.